Hi, everyone. Hope all's good. Thanks for coming as always. Really appreciate it. Even as I say that, I forgot to open up a particular file that I want to double check. Today, I want to go through the steps that we discussed on Friday during the book reading. You may remember that we talked about, I'm just opening up here. We talked about the, here we go. I'm going to go all the way up to the, we talked about the different steps that we use to break down and master a skill. And I think that really is a really great way to go about it. The problem is I probably can't find it anymore because it's ducked back into the book, the Budo Blueprint book. Anyway, how is everyone? Daniel, Us, Tabiru, Damien. How's Melbourne? It's finally starting to open up a little bit, I see. Yeah, same with Mike in Florida. Torbjörn, Us, good to see you. And Harry from down the mountain. So Torbjörn all the way from Norway and Harry all the way from about 10 minutes down the hill. Frederick from Sweden, Us. Thanks everyone for coming. Yeah, some hope on the horizon. My daughter's down there and her birthday's in 3 weeks and I don't know if I'll be able to get down there. But it must be tough for everyone down there, that's for sure. You know, so our thoughts go to you. It's a toughie, that's for sure. Like it or lump it. Anyway. Here we go. Let me just open this. I may not even be able to find what I was looking for. Remember what I read on Friday? I was talking about the different stages of mastery of a technique, and I'm just going through the table of contents now, and I have to say, maybe it's in there. Oh, here we go. Found it. Beautiful. What's Alan? Mike Clark. Mike, I got your message. Thank you. I wanted to talk to you about that. What's Tony? Palmieri. How are you, man? And Harry again. I am Harry Anderson you're from Michigan. But that's Harry down the hill, is it? Or is it a different Harry? We've got another Harry Anderson down the hill who joins in sometimes. But you live in Michigan, do you, Harry? I've got a good buddy in Michigan. You've been hit pretty hard there, I believe, too. But anyway, wow. Okay, well, welcome aboard. Mike Clark, thank you. I got your message. I need to talk to you at length about that because everything you said makes 100% sense. I just want to speak to you about quoting that in my book, if I could, without pointing any fingers and saying, you know, I'll just probably say something like, according to Mike Clark, the situation isn't just in Kyokushin sort of thing. Yeah, it is Harry from down there, but you're from Michigan, right? Originally, is that what you're saying? Now I'm confused. So, Mike, I'll speak to you. I'll get a message to you some way or another, or you could PM me. Oh, you don't have Facebook. But anyway, look, today I just wanted to discuss what I discussed about that 8-step formula where we go through the process of isolating a skill and working on it a bit at a time. And I think it's just a really useful skill for breaking down not just kata techniques in bunkai, and that's what bunkai means. It literally means to break the techniques down, you know. And even though sometimes some people look at bunkai and kaisai exactly the same, they're slightly different. I mean, the word kaisai, again, I come back to the word kaisai isn't even a Japanese word. It's a word. I mean, if you were to look up, and I can only say this because I tried numerous times and I double checked. I even went back to my old hardback kanji dictionaries, this thick, my old Nelsons and so on. 2 of them, of 2 different ones. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, that'd be great if you could. Uspal, good to see you, man. And So it's not actually a Japanese word, but I did find it in Chinese historical martial arts journals and so on in the course of my process. And so I guess when Chojo Miyagi introduced the concept of tying and untying, unraveling and retying knot points in kata, he just found that to be a very excessively verbose phrase. So he went with kaisai, and kaisai makes sense. It's a Chinese martial arts word that he borrowed. So in China, it's a word, the two kanji that make kaisai. I think it's sai sho, something like that, which I read once before. But anyway, the point of what I'm getting at is that this principle, this 8-step formula, which I have, works not just with, say, kumite techniques and so on. It also works really well with breaking down kata as well. Okay, so the trick is, and we'll just get straight into it so we don't waste too much time. I'm really good at that. Like Torbjörn pointed out the other day, we started off talking about one thing and we spent the rest of the hour talking about something completely different. But anyway, I think everyone had fun. I certainly enjoyed the feedback, and keep that feedback coming. Just a quick shout out before we start to my Patreon family. Gosh, you have no idea how much of a difference it makes. The government of Australia has been pretty good. They've been supporting us with what they call a JobKeeper payment. But today that gets halved. So my income now is a fraction of what it used to be. So I can't tell you how much I really appreciate the Patreon help. It's making such a wonderful difference. And I wouldn't be able to do this stuff without it. Of course, thanks. If you're not a Patreon family member, by all means, check out the Patreon site. I think there may even be a link to it below. If not, leave a message and I'll send you the link. Otherwise, if you're not a subscriber here either, and eventually I get back to all the messages, but things are a little delayed because we're racing to get the book sorted. So anyway, the 8-step formula, I think it's a really beautiful concept, and I'm sure everyone who's ever trained has come up with one version of it or another. The simplest breakdown you can ever do as an instructor to help your students is to break down the bottom half of the body and the top half of the body. So you can have a move. I'll get out of my Caesar before it hurts my legs too much. So you can have a move, for example. It may be Taikyoku 1. 1, 2. So you've got the stance of it. So for a senior student, you need to get both the arms and legs coordinated through the tanden to be a single move. Okay, so that the move kind of goes from here to here in one movement. Okay, for a beginner, trying to do that is freakishly difficult. Okay, because you're having to carve neurological pathways that don't even exist. So one of the best ways you can do it is like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. So you break it down into 4. Then you break it down into 1, 2, 3. Then you break it down into 1, 2. Then you break it down into 1. Okay? And it's the same when you step through. I can't step through very well off that leg. Let me go this way. It might be easy. Okay? So I've come this way now. Now I'm stepping through. There, like that. So for a beginner, sometimes what will happen is this. And they'll get the firing order wrong. So one of the best ways to sort that out is step 1, 2. Or if you add that extra move, as some Kyokushin groups do, 1, 2, 3. Then you can put it into, excuse me, I'm struggling off this knee. Then you can put it into 2. 1, 2. And then you can put it into 1. There, like that. Okay, so even in the simplest kata form, you can find really, really practical ways to make this idea of the breakdown work. And we all do it. But if you don't do it, start to do it with your beginners especially. One of the best ways is to separate the bottom half and the top half. Not always the bottom half leads. Sometimes the top half leads. But anyway, us, Ken. No worries, Ken. Thanks for popping in. Okay, so the 8-step formula, we went through it on Friday, you might remember. So the first thing you do is you isolate that skill. So you break down a flow, and it can be any flow you want. It can be a kata flow or it can be a kumite flow. You break down that skill and you isolate a particular technique. Okay, then you drill that really slowly until it becomes neurologically comfortable. Let's say I just happen to start a jab. Well, let's do that as a combination. We'll work on a good combination because good punch combinations, they seem really confusing if you're not used to it. And if you haven't drilled it properly, it will be just this sort of thing going on. But if you've drilled it properly, you have everything coordinated, your whole body working as a single weapon. And that's what you aim for. So you drill it very slowly, then you speed up the drill, then you put it back in the flow, in the series, and you do that nice and slowly, then you gradually speed that up. Okay, then the 5th step is you put that in to a prearranged 2-man kata with your partner, which I can't do today because I don't have a partner, so I have to use my imagination. And then you work that. So how can I make it? You work the timing, the footwork with your prearranged movement. And then you put it into kumite, jiu kumite, and this is good for kata as well because you're going to isolate the technique and go from just doing the move in the kata to breaking it down with bunkai, to breaking it down with kaisai, to putting it into oyo, real applications. And so you've got to do that. You build up to where you're dealing with a totally non-compliant opponent. And then the last step of the 8 steps is you just reflect on it, think about it, discuss it with your friend, you reassess it. How can I fix it? Especially if you've got a camera, man, you get a video of yourself and you can see firsthand whether it's down or whether your head's moving too much, all those sort of things. And then you make the adjustments. You go back to step 1, make the adjustments, and then you repeat it again until it comes good. Us, Al, good to see you, man. Good to see you. Okay, so let's run through it. That's like I said, we were doing that, the jab. So what you can do, my stitches are all healed, by the way. I had a look at it just before. My wife took a photo. All the stitches are out and gone, and I've stopped breaking the stitches, but it's itchy. I guess that's a good thing. Okay, so let's look at a particular combination. And that combination can be as simple or as complex as you want. So, for example, and I'll get back so you can see my feet as well to a degree. My knee starts to hurt. I'll go back and just so you can see my upper body. That's too much, isn't it? So we've put together a combination that allows us to go practical. So the first thing you always do, 7-step kumite formula. Good posture, okay, good default position, your eyes, your shape, everything, your defensive shapes, your arms are here, not here, okay, your legs are here, not here, okay, because too easy to kick, your feet are straight, you're not here, etc. That's what you sort out in your 7-stage kumite. So here's my kumite stance. And that stance changes according to your fight. Okay, and now I'm going to work a combination. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Rotate off that or even throw the jab. There, let's do that. Rotate off and throw another jab. Why do we rotate off? As a habit in the dojo, what we do with the students is we never finish the combination in the same place that we started, because we never want to get set at a point where our opponent has time to counter without having to adjust. Okay, so we never do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Your turn. Okay, because that becomes a habit. You react how you train. I want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Rotate off 7, 8 if I want to do that. But now when it's his turn, he has to make that adjustment. So you've got out of his dead zone, which forces him to think about it. Okay, so, us, Sensei Richard, so good to see you. You've got a lot more than me. I only got 7. You got a lot more than that, and your stitches were holding together much bigger parts of your body, no doubt. I just had a little gash. Good to see you, though, Sensei Richard. Really appreciate it. Mahalo. Thank you for coming. Okay, so let's break it down. And one of the skills, and Daniel Langworthy, and if Rod's there, and anyone who's done a seminar with me will know that one of the things I love doing is getting a metronome, and you work with a metronome. And the reason you work with a metronome is it pushes you to focus on rhythm. And when you focus on rhythm, it encourages relaxation. Okay, and rhythm is so important. You know, you read, there's a section in This is Karate where it's also talked about how important rhythm is. Okay, so by using a metronome, you can really, really work on your rhythm and forget about power. You see, power is not a somatic of the body. We have speed, strength, flexibility, cardiovascular endurance, and for karate, we have what I call impact resilience. Power is not one of those. Power is a combination of those. So power is the ball brats. So brats, it's the balance, the relaxation, the angles, the timing, and the speed. That is what gives you the power in the end of the day. So by breaking down and using this 8-step formula, what it allows you to do is optimize your power in a way that is efficient. Okay, so the first step, we isolate the drill. Okay, see if I can get this. I'm going to have to work out a way to measure. Okay, so here I am. I'm going to isolate. So the technique is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, rotate, 7. Okay, let's just work on that simple combination. So now I need to isolate a particular technique out of that combination. So it just may be the left jab. Okay, now by using a metronome, and I work it like rates like 120 to 140, then 160, then 180. Or you can go 125, 135, 45, 55, like that. It just depends how you want to progress. But sticking to a metronome allows you to keep that rhythm. So the first thing I want to do is I set up a metronome at about 120 beats. Oh, look at that. Gosh, a metronome set for 120 beats. What a coincidence. I think I'll take advantage of that. Okay, so I'm just going to put that metronome on, and it's going to be close enough to the microphone that you can hear it. So there's your metronome at 120. And all I want to do is isolate the skill. I'm going to come a little closer so you can see exactly what I mean. So I feel the rhythm, and as I feel the rhythm, I get my fighting stance. Is my elbow in? Is my head straight? My back heel is off the ground. My shoulder is forward, protecting my neck, as in NK Gyatsuki. I bring the hand up, and it's back. Again, I keep my elbows in. I never want to start to do this. Okay? Constantly with your students, you can keep pulling the elbows in. You can even get a strap for their belt and tie it around their elbows if they break that rule. So, we're isolating the jab. How slow is that? I'm concentrating my weight left for my left hand. I have time to think. What's my right arm doing down there? Come back up here. Okay, so I've got everything, time to check. Oh, I'm not bringing my hand back. Straight out, straight back, straight out, straight back. Out, back. You notice I turn the hand this way. See that? Rather than go there and keep that hand at the same angle, one of my boxing coaches taught me to turn the hand, and that, look what it does to my elbow. Turn the hand, elbow comes in. Turn the hand, elbow comes in. So we call it reading cheat notes. There. You get that good. Everything's feeling pretty good. Okay. Relax, relax, relax. I'm not punching, I'm playing a game. Relax, relax. Okay, then I start to double up. Am I obeying all the rules? And you can start to change the timing. Watch how I change the timing. Left goes straight out and straight back. Right loops, so it drives all the way through. So rather than snap it back, which steals power from it, what you want to do is loop it through around. Okay, and then let's add the other combination, the other techniques. Do you hook like that or like that? Up to you. No hands, that's good because you don't hurt your knuckle as much. But trust me, the number of times you're actually going to whack someone in the face with bare fist is so limited, it's not going to make that much difference. Okay, everyone talks about it, but it never really happens. See, elbow comes up. The most important thing about the left hook is your elbow is horizontal. 1, 2, not like this. That's the mistake most people make. The elbow is not up. If you just concentrate on that one thing, it'll add 300% to the power of your hook. 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, hook and back. 1, 2, hook and back. You can start to sound like Tybo if you want. Doesn't hurt. Oh, you guys just having a conversation yet? No worries. Okay, so back to the combination. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's cut the corner now. 1, 2, 3, 4. See where I put my hand after 4. I don't go 1, 2, 3, 4. Bring it back. 1, 2, 3, 4. Put it here because the next one is going to be a rip. And it doesn't matter when you're doing 120 beats. When you're doing 180 beats, all of a sudden you need to have it down there because you don't have time to go 1, 2, 3, 4, bang. It takes too long. Watch my hand. Whoop. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and rotate and take your time for that one. Okay, so now we pick the beat up a little bit. We're starting to get the neurology working. Yeah, my wife's classmate's dad, one of her classmates, her stepdad was Billy Blanks. Check that out. I said, invite me round to her house one day. But anyway, okay, so let's stop this for a sec. And I'm going to increase it now to, let's say, 130 beats. So that was 120. What's Al? Good to see you, man. Hear the difference in speed now. So now we're doing 130, but we've got to keep the rhythm and the relaxation. That's why you use a metronome. The metronomes are free to download on your phone too. Don't do this. Cut it short. What we always tell the students is you hit, and you hit. You hear the jab on the chest. Like that. You hit the jab in between. Like that. So, as you speed it up, you maintain the correct rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I got it on 3/4 timing, I think. See what you're doing? You keep that rhythm. Then you keep building on the flow again. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You watch how my hand comes down after the rip. Up to the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Up. 1, 2, hook, jump. Okay, then you can add the footstep in at the end. The timing changes because the footwork changes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Rotate up. Bang. Okay. The trick is, as you speed it up, you maintain the rhythm. Hey, Gare, good to see you, man. Thanks for coming. So you maintain that rhythm and relaxation. And what do you do if you start to feel that you're losing the technique and you're losing the rhythm? You go back to 120. If 120 is no good, you go back to 100. Okay. Sometimes you might even just not even use a metronome and just work on slow motion. Hands, elbows in, reading my cheat notes. Out is my jaw attached to my shoulder. I don't want to do this. Turn my head, the big hole here for the right hand to overcome. Bang! One of Sosai's big techniques, I'm told by his contemporaries, was Mizushima sensei said. Sosai used to block the left jab like that. The punch would come in, he'd block it as he threw the punch. Jab comes in, knock their arm out of the way and punch at the same time. Bang, there like that. Bang, bang, bang. Then we start to pick it up. Okay, you maintain that rhythm. Pick it up to 140 beats. So we've isolated a skill. Let's say we isolate the left jab. Something's going wrong, not getting the rhythm or timing. Okay, it may be that you're using too much body movement. Okay, so it may be that instead of doing the jab out and back, so you tag your chest, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Hear the chest tag, 1, 2, 3. Maybe what I'm doing is I'm going, and I'm not getting any power, and by doing that, I'm not getting the body set up for the next technique. So you have to work on weight left for left, weight right for right, left, right. And if you can see my feet, Benny the Jet taught me this. As a drill, one of the things you can really worth experimenting with, especially with a metronome, is this. So all my students will tell you that when you throw a left, your weight's on the left and your left heel is up slightly. Boom. When you throw the right, the weight comes to the right heel is up. Left, right, left. It looks funky, feels funky, but once you get used to it, you realize how it helps you to load power. Okay, left, right. You can use that with a metronome as well. So now we increase the speed to 140 and just work on rhythm, just relax. Sometimes if it's too fast at first, relax your shoulders. Even that is getting the rhythm. You watch boxers. I used to train a boxer named Tyrone Tongia. Hi Ty, if you're watching, thinking of you every day. Hope those beautiful kids are well. But Tyrone, when he'd warm up, it'd be like this. He wouldn't even throw a punch. He's going through the punches, but the most important thing was that good rhythm. So you keep that rhythm. If you can see my feet, my heels are lifting even as I throw the punch. Now I add the rip. Getting off camera, am I? Okay, and then I add the footstep at the end. The rotation to get out of the dead zone. Never finish a combination in the same place that you started it. Okay, and so there, what you're doing is as you speed up, you're still not telling your brain that you're fighting or you're trying to throw a knockout punch. You never try to throw a knockout punch. You try to throw a technically efficient, perfect punch. Just happens to knock them out if you get it right. So anyway, that's 140. Now you can keep going for as much as you want, and you can build up, and you actually, what you can do is use it as a challenge, as an overspeed challenge. One of the best things I ever used to do when I trained tournaments was do downhill sprints. You find a hill with almost imperceptible downward slope, just enough so that if you're on a bicycle, you'd almost fall off because the initial movement would be so slow. 3 degrees, around 3 degrees is enough. And then you sprint, you do short. I used to do a short 80 meter, or sometimes shorter than that, 40 to 50 to 60 to 80 meter sprints. And what the downhill would do would be to force your body to move faster than it naturally could. Well, you can do the same thing with a metronome. You can crank it up. What's this? See, that's 160 beats. That's 160 beats. What about 180? So what you do is, as a group, you can actually get the team together and start to increase the rhythm of the metronome as a challenge to try and keep. We do another similar thing to that, and Al Farrell and Al Bellamy are here. They're regular students, or have been at least in the past. So what this is like the 5th step of the 8th step, where you've taken that slow flow and you're putting it back into a fast flow, and you gradually speed it up without losing the rhythm or relaxation. That's the most important thing. But change of stance. Now you're talking about a different broken rhythm thing, Harry. And in a fighting situation, if you're thinking about changing stances, it's too late, of course. You don't want to change stances in a fight. Your fighting stance should be the most efficient stance. The only reason you change is to, I'd say, adapt to a defensive situation, or get out of range, or, do your footwork to step up for a kick, or do your footwork to step in for a punch, and things like that. But what you can do is gradually build up the metronome until you're going like running down a slight hill. So if I put it at 180 beats a minute, remember we started at 120 beats a minute. So where's 120? That's 120. Hear that? Okay. Now we pick it up to 180. Hear the difference? Relax, right? Okay, then you can pick it up. Let's pick it up to 200 and see if I can walk out of here alive. So actually, let's pick it up to to be quite honest. I don't even know if I've ever done it at 240. But that's double 120. That's still slower than what you need to be throwing the punches in sparring. And this is why stamina is so important. My stamina will give out before the punches. So, I'll stop while I'm ahead. That's how you can use a metronome in relation to the 8-step formula. So what you've done there is you've done the first 5 steps basically. You isolate a skill, you drill it slow, drill it fast, put it back in the flow, drill the flow slow, isolate any problems if there are. If there are none, then you drill the flow fast, and then that's the first 5 steps, which you can do by yourself at any time. The next one is yakusoku, of course, with a training partner, working with a training partner, and then do it in jiu kumite, free fighting, find out where the weakness is, work with a partner you trust, and ask them, what's going right, what's going wrong, what can I do to fix it? And that's step 8, of course, is you reflect, you reassess, you make adjustments as necessary, and you repeat it. And if you have to make those adjustments and they're fairly glaring adjustments, something that slipped through without you seeing, the Swiss cheese effect, well then maybe you need to go right back to step 1 at 120 beats or 100 beats until you re-groove the neurological pathways. So that's that 8-step formula, and it's really, if you're an instructor, it's a fantastic way to help your students get a handle on improving the technique, mastering a technique, but also making sure that you get rid of what they call the muda na dosa. Muda na dosa. Muda means unnecessary, dosa means movements. So getting rid of extra movements, down and back, down and back. My head's moving. My head's moving, my elbow's up, and you got to go through everything like this. You're constantly going like this because your fundamental default position and defensive shapes are wrong. Obviously, if your defensive shapes are wrong and everything's there and someone does it, you're going to be overreacting. Okay, but by having a good default position, you don't have to overreact. And that allows you to move with efficiency. Ba, 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 ba. I normally work at about 300 beats a minute, but I just don't want to embarrass myself today. Okay, so, and then that's what you can do though, by the way, was Sven. Yeah, it's really good stamina training. And you remember this? We did this in Tromsø. There's Sven's from Tromsø up in northern Norway. And we did this session where we just got the guys more and more, and if I put it up to, let me put it up to 250 is as high as this particular metronome goes. And then what you do is you start to do what Tyrone Cyclone Tongia, the boxer, who was my ex-Uchideshi, who is still a good buddy today. And I ended up cornering him when he was a pro boxer. And like I said, when he'd warm up, he wouldn't throw the full length. He just, boom, he'd work on his rhythm with the small movements. Okay, so I'm going to put it at 250. If I fall over and I put my hand up, someone call an ambulance. Okay, hear that? But I want to cut things short on purpose. Elbow comes up. See, I cut things short because my priority is not to hit with power. is to hit with rhythm. And by going those super high speeds, and that's still probably a little slower than you really would be hitting in kumite. It's just that in kumite, you tend to throw things in ones and twos because that's how we train. But imagine if you train to be able to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, roll off 7, 8, 9, throw 9 instead of 6. I remember once in the All Japan Championship or the World Tour, I can't remember which one it was, Gary O'Neill we watched. He was fighting a former All Japan champion, and he threw 17 different techniques in a single combination. And the ex-All Japan champion, once he picked himself up off the ground, he just looked at him and just gone, what am I meant to do? Okay, bang, 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 kicks, bang, bang, boom, 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 boom. It was like this, but everything was from a perfect shape of default position each time. And then he'd pause, and when he'd pause, the guy would go, huh, and then he'd just come back again, boom, boom, boom. So this is what you can do when you drill the neurons right so that everything is working at the right place at the right time. When I was talking about to change the stance, I was thinking from your left to right. Yeah, you can change left, definitely. If you watch the guys from KRT, boy, oh boy, those guys are good. I mean, they're the sort of karate that I'd want if I was an 18-year-old. That I'd be watching them every opportunity because they've got the stamina, the youth, the fitness. And they do make sure you switch both sides. And that's a perfect way, by the way, Harry, to switch both sides, is because it's like trying to teach yourself to write left-handed. That ambidextrous skill is incredibly useful in karate, by the way. And it's one of those things that I believe anyway gives karate this incredible usefulness as a therapy, would you believe? I've even written a chapter. I'm going to go back into the book here and see if I can find that chapter. Hierarchy, somatics, breath control, keys to training, injury prevention, grappling, karate, extra training keys, staying by the line. There we go. Karate training as a therapy modality. I've written a whole chapter on this. And one of the reasons, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a scientist, but just from my observation, is that one of the things, particularly with PTSD, is how the separate hemispheres of the brain get disconnected. And sometimes they find that people who have PTSD problems, they don't even have the neurological pathways developed that we would normally develop because their development has been interrupted through the trauma. And by using karate, by doing everything bang, 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 by doing everything left, right, left, right, left, right, what it does has been shown that physical activities that demand the same left and right, so you're doing the bilateral motion, it helps to re-establish certain neurological pathways which have been broken. Okay, and the amount of trauma and stress in society, the way people normally deal with it is through drugs and alcohol, and they become a trauma and stress of their own. So you have to find a modality which can break out of those patterns. And one of the best ways, I believe, is karate is a fantastic modality if you understand the way. There's the main two things I believe anyway are, first of all, three things. It's a total body exercise. Okay, so some people might say, well, chess is good. Yeah, but chess only works your right hand and your brain. Karate works everything, like Oishi Shihan says, it works everything from the soles of your feet to the top of your head, and it really does. Secondly, what it does is it works your entire body bilaterally. Okay, and thirdly, and I think this is one of the things which, even above other styles of karate, and you know from my dialogue that I absolutely love all the other styles of karate and arts, but one of the things that Kyokushin has which really helps is the loud and common kiais, where you'll on any given session you'll do 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 super loud, hard kiais. And that kiaing, I remember when I'm sure I've mentioned this, but when I was a little boy, I wanted to find a way to get out of my situation. I was quite small for my age, and I read about primal screaming. And the two things which really got me going in karate in a big way until the end of grade 10. I often didn't have an opportunity to train, and it didn't worry me too much because I wasn't that wrapped up in it. But what happened was in the beginning of grade 11, that's when I actually wrote a little piece of paper, and I vowed to myself that I would do and teach and train Kyokushin for the rest of my life. And that was reading about that old therapy from the 70s called primal screaming. And I worked out in my research at school that excessively demanding levels of physical training would stimulate bone tip growth in developing youth. And I thought, well, that's right down my alley. I just wanted to do anything. I was in grade 11. I was 145 centimeters. That's like in old terms, that's 4'10" in grade 11. You think about that. That's not pretty. Everyone thought I'd be an uncle, like a jockey, like my uncle's a famous jockey. Didn't want that. Don't like horses that much. Don't mind them, but I don't want to live on them. And the other thing I realized was the ki-eyes and the way loud primal screaming, and I just found that word primal screaming to be so like the word ki-eye. Ki, primal energy. I meet with a scream, ki-eye. So you're meeting your primal energy through a scream. So there's primal screaming. Yeah, Mike, I don't know what to say about that. Do you know what the sound of one hand clapping is? Pum, pum, pum. Okay, get out of here. You know, like the old Three Stooges. That's a pretty funny joke. That's a dad joke. So the two things that really got me going was extremely high levels of exercise would stimulate bone tip growth in developing youth, and the primal screaming through the ki-eyes. And Kyokushin, all styles ki-eye, but I don't think any style ki-eyes as much as Kyokushin. So it's really, and you can see it in students. When you have 10 students, they can't ki-eye. But when you teach them to do nothing more than ki-eye, the transformation is unbelievable. Hey, Paddy, good to see you, man. And Paddy will know. I hope it won't be long before you'll be back opening the dojo again. Hey, Paddy, so good luck to that. We're thinking of you. So anyway, that is interesting that you said that, Harry, because I actually went along the lines of Muhammad Ali. And he was asked once, does he ever switch feet? And he said, why should I? It just works with one side forward. I don't need to switch. But there are fighters that switch, but there aren't many that switch. But one of them who was very ambidextrous was Gary. Gary could literally fight comfortably on both sides. We used to do the morning, the Uchideshi would write their diary. And, you know, if you've left it too late and write really fast, your hand gets tired. And I cross my heart and hope to die. Gary would leave his until the end. He'd be writing away and his hand would get sore and he'd switch hand and he'd keep writing with his left hand. And then he'd switch back right and then left. And you look at the writing, you couldn't tell the difference between his left hand and his right hand script. And we had a competition once at the dojo. I mentioned this, but it's funny if you didn't hear it. When we were building the sprung wooden floor in the dojo in Brisbane, we'd line up 10 nails. We'd tap them in and we go, and there were like half a dozen of us, and we'd have a race. And I'd get the hang of it. You know, if you hit the nail square, you'd 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, like this. And I'd look up and Gary's sitting back there with his arms crossed, and he beat everyone every time. I couldn't work it out. So I said, all right, let's go again. So line them up, and I've gone, go. And as I've done it, I looked over at Gary, and he's got 2 hammers, one in each hand. He's just going, ba, 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 like this. So Gary is completely ambidextrous. And that's what allowed him to hit. I know when you grapple, for example, you get used to doing certain movements on one side, just like in karate. I mean, my left jab, my right cross is much better than my right jab, my left cross. Okay? But maybe Harry is a voice from the wilderness crying, make straight the way of your karate because you don't do enough ambidextrous work. But this metronome is fantastic for that, by the way. If you really want to get super good at your opposite side forward, hear that? That's 100 beats. you'll have to go right back and rearrange the neurons to get comfortable on that side again. But you watch the boys at KRT, and they do it every time. You know, they'll never do a combination without switching it to the other side. That's a fantastic thing. It's just not what I've done through the years. So let me just review before we wind up. It's a little bit of a quickie one tonight, but the 8 points, okay? And this is related. In my book, I talk about the 8-step formula being a VAK thing, a visual, auditory, and kinesthetic learning process. So you can actually break it down even further according to how your students do it. And some skills are visual, some are auditory, some are kinesthetic. And you'll know that. Someone will say, can you show me that again? Someone will say, can you explain that to me again? And someone else will go, can you watch me while I try it again? You know, it just depends how they learn. Are they visual learners, auditory learners, or kinesthetic learners? And I've broken that down in the book too, in the 8-step formula process. But that 8-step formula, simple as 1, isolate the skill. 2, drill it slowly. 3, drill it fast. 4, put the skill back in the flow. So if it's the first few moves of a kata, you've got to get that certain movement. You can't work out what's going wrong in Pinan 5. You know, maybe the 9th move out of Pinan. Okay, that seems to hurt everyone, which is this move here. You come down, 3rd move, turn, there. Okay, so a lot of people they don't turn far enough, or they don't turn there, or the beginners, they get their feet mixed up. So that move alone is worth, whoa, come back. Whoa, you come back. You come back, and you keep working it, and you start to feel that flow. You find, you get the feel over and over. Then you put it back in the kata. Like that, and you start to find that the flow, by having done the repetition on that move over and over, allows you then to put it back in the kata properly. So you isolate it, you drill it fast, you put it back in the flow and drill it slow, and then you slowly build up the speed of the flow. Then you put it in yakusoku drilling, in other words, 2-man kata drills. You put in a 2-man kata where you're working together with a partner you trust, and then you go from yakusoku, or pre-arranged drills, to jiu, or free, non-arranged drills in kumite, where you start to try and apply that. Bang, you're moving around, boom, throws the kick, there's the opportunity, bang, and you may not even do the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, rotate off. But what you might do is you pull it off, bang, 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 and you get the 3 of them at least. But because you've done the drill and you've carved it into your neurons, everything comes off a lot smoother. And then, of course, the last step is RRAR. RRAR. We call that the seal. You put a seal to it. RRAR, like that. Okay? You reflect, you reassess, you make adjustments as necessary, and then you repeat it again. And that's the last thing. The reflect, reassess, make adjustments, and repeat. Okay, so there you go. I've got to talk to you, Marco, too, as soon as possible. I have an apology to make. But anyway, look, guys, I hope you got something out of that. Please, I didn't see too much discussion there, other than Mike Clark's suggesting that he'd give his right arm to be ambidextrous. Thank you very much, Richard. It's so good to see you healthy, Richard Sensei. So glad you're here. We were worried for you when you were ill in hospital, so it's fantastic to have you back. It's a real honour, to be quite honest. And Mike Clark, and even we had Mike Lorden there, whose name disappeared up the top there, but Mike was the first one to sign in today. So thank you, everybody. Torbjörn, always good to see you, man. And I keep saying I've got to talk to you, but I've got a few things on. I hope you got something out of that. Please let me know if you did. Thank you, Patreon family. If you're not a Patreon member, by all means, share the love. I really appreciate it. And now that COVID, the JobKeeper halves from today, I'm in trouble. Not that bad. All right. Thank you, everybody. Us, appreciate it very much. And I look forward to seeing you on Friday. Us, thanks. Thanks, Tigray. Al Bellamy, Us, good to see you, man. Paul Knip, good. Dankeschön, mein Freund. Thank you. No, share them. We love your jokes. Yes, look, I've got my double end bag right there. There's my double end bag right there. I agree with you, Mike. Oh, and that opens up a whole new thing. I'll be here for another half an hour if I'm not careful. You know, Salso was famous for his Makiwara work, but he went away from Makiwara, and he actually said to me once that he stopped doing Makiwara because he felt subtly that was slowing him down. Isn't that interesting? And I feel the same when I do Makiwara. I feel super strong, but I feel it slows me down. What's the solution? Right there, the double-ended bag, the floor-to-ceiling bag, boom. And that what that does, it forces you to do exactly as we're doing, Mike. I'm glad you brought that up. The floor-to-ceiling bag forces you to stay light, boom. Don't overreach, don't overpower. You can't hit a floor-to-ceiling bag with power. It's just speed and rhythm. Bang, 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 boom, 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 bang, bang, boom, bang, boom, 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 boom. And it keeps you soft. And the Salsai talks about special drills that he did to maintain his speed. And as Bobby Lowe said, the one thing that you come away with when you watch Salsai fight for real was he was so fast, it was sick. He was, you know, he was to karate what Manny Pacquiao is with his speed in boxing, I'd say. And then you combine that with Lomachenko's footwork, and then you're in trouble, aren't you? Boy, oh boy. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Us. See ya. Us.